is so difficult. Oh, here we go. Oh, I love the delay. Delay. Oh, the delay is significant. It's about 10 seconds delay. About 10 seconds delay. Okay. Everything seems to be in order. Hopefully, other people will come in. All right. If nobody's in here yet, so I'm just gonna hang out for a little bit. But we are going to be talking about The Boys season 4. Uh, got my notes. Hope I'm not just talking to myself. That'd be nice. Oh, it's 2 o'clock. Hopefully some people will trickle in because I can't be the only person that wants to talk about The Boys season 4, which just premiered on Thursday. I got up early this morning to make sure I could watch the 3 episodes that they premiered with, which was significant. First of all, because they were all hour-long episodes, which I did not expect. I expected 42-minute episodes. So, uh, pretty cool that they gave us so much content. So I'm definitely looking forward to talking about it. Hopefully, I have some people come in. If not, I figure in about 5 minutes or so, whether or not anyone's in here, I will. I will definitely sit here and talk about it because this show is just it kicks ass. That's all I can say. So, if you joined, if you're on, man, get down to the chat and chime in so I can say hey to you. Um, and I hope you got your notes ready because a lot of shit happened in these episodes. It was pretty significant, but par for the course for the boys. But par for the course is of course pretty great, actually. Really glad to see that it didn't lose a step coming into this new season. So give it a few more minutes. In the meantime, I will also, in non-boys related things, I'm going to cheer for the fact that we got a green light for My Adventures with Superman season 2. I mean, not season 2, season 3. So clearly the ratings have been going well on My Adventures with Superman. I'm really happy to see that. That's a great show. If you're not watching, you should be watching. Beyond that, we're just seeing a lot more stuff going on in animation too. Of course, this show, The Boys season 4, it's the next to last season. They have greenlit season 5, but it is going to be the final season of The Boys, and I'm all for that. Good. Let's we don't want to linger when we don't need to. Tell the story you intend to tell, that sort of thing. So glad to see that. Um, I saw there was some clickbait bullshit coming from Giant fucking Robot, or Giant Freaking Robot, whatever the fuck the name of the site is, talking about it got canceled. It's so predictably stupid that you would say it's canceled when it literally is ending when it's supposed to end. I mean, if that's the case, then every show that's ever ended or it was canceled, it's not necessarily true. Um, it's I go on about those kind of websites. They're really annoying. And stupid me, I keep on clicking or lingering over their links in my Google News feed. So that's probably why I keep seeing this shit. But I'm gonna keep on calling it out when I see it because it's so dumb. I get it. You're trying to drive traffic. It's dishonest as hell. I don't like it. But dishonesty sells. So it is what it is. Beyond that, there's thank you to everybody who subscribed recently. I appreciate that on BLERD FORCE 1. And I probably should have introduced myself. I'm Mo. I'm one half of BLERD FORCE 1, do the Supercast where we talk about superheroes and pop culture media, and that's always a good time. So you can check that out on the channel. Of course, we do reviews. I've done opinion pieces. I don't do that too often, but that is the sort of thing I like to do. Basically, I'm up in the nerd pop culture space. Catch me on Threads. It's BLERD_FORCE1. I'm on TikTok a little bit. Super_not_funny show on there, and then it's supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com if you want to, send an email or something like that. Well, I don't know. Do people email anymore? I don't know. But I'm on BLERD_FORCE1 on Instagram and Threads. Threads is where you mostly find me talking about nerd shit. Just because it's fun. What I like to do. If you can't tell from my background, I love that stuff. So either way, nobody's still in here. You guys, come on now. Show me some love. Show up for the live stream. But either way, I think we can start talking about it 5 minutes in. It has season 4 started. I'm looking at on Threads. Yes, it has started already. Yes. Crazy. Sometimes I forget that people don't follow things like I do. I know I shouldn't be thinking like that, but I'm up on this stuff at all times. But that's just the things I like to do. So of course I'm following it. Either way, so the boys first of all, let's just talk about the show in general. The Boys is. Uh, I remember reading the comic years and years ago. This is a comic from like 20 years ago. So back when I was still regularly reading single issue comic books, and also I'm gonna admit downloading comics because who the hell can afford to buy comic books these days? But I was downloading them, and I remember the Boys, and it was just it's Garth Ennis, Derek Robertson on art, Garth Ennis writing the story, and it was about a world like any of the other comic book worlds where there are superheroes, but in this one they're all almost to the person terrible fucking people. They were celebrity. They're basically it's a commentary on celebrity culture and all that stuff. They're celebrities. They're killing people. You know, they're doing drugs and you know all this sort of stuff. And the Boys was Billy and his his group of agents essentially trying to bring them to heel and of course aiming for the big guy Homelander, who's basically Superman but terrible. So I mean, it's a pretty balls to the wall, very crass, very vulgar, R-rated sort of romp that did have something to say about it, but it went for often went for flash and also shock, and so it's a good starting point, which is what I'm trying to say. Um, I never got further than probably 7 or 8 issues into it. It's just I didn't feel like keeping up with it month to month, but I would see it here and there, on the shelves and everything like that. And there's a lot of shock value to it, especially in our world and in our particular part of fandom where we like superheroes, you like comic books, all that sort of thing. Having not just an evil Superman, but like not a evil mastermind Superman. It's just a broken human being that's just like I'm powerful and I'll do whatever I want, and then people covering it up for them was interesting at the time. Now, fast forward to a few years ago. I think it's probably been 4 years now, and maybe five. Is it 4 or 5? Something like that. 4 or 5 years, but um, we get this TV version, and this is in the aftermath of the the dominance of superhero movies and how superheroes have been on. I mean, in the past 15, 17 years, maybe more, maybe even 20 years, you couldn't go a year without seeing something superhero related. And in the past 15 or so years, you couldn't go you know a week without seeing it because it's the CW, the Arrowverse. You got Marvel stuff that Sony's still making its thing. It's Spider-Man things. There was Fox at the time, so there was plenty of superhero stuff to the point where something like The Boys makes sense as a storytelling platform because people understand superheroes in the sense that we've been exposed to the idea so much and maybe the rules or um, the conventions of the genre so that they could then start breaking them or exposing them or bending them the way that the Boys does, because the comic only really works if you know the superhero comic book genre. If that's your first comic book, yeah, it's going to be you know crass and in your face and all that other stuff. It'll be shocking. But a lot of the things it's commenting on, you don't necessarily understand or get unless you are also reading it as an allegory for celebrity culture and how powerful people do bad things, that sort of thing. So now that we are dead in the midst of you know superhero dominance. Now, no matter what you say about MCU falling off or the DCU falling apart, the end of the Arrowverse, the truth is, or even the Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse sort of being whatever right now. Truthfully, it's still, possibly the most dominant, movie genre that exists. and anytime there is any of that, people are going to pay attention. So the boys comes into this environment that's it's the field was plowed, it was it was tilled, it was fertilized, it was planted. And now that all it has to do is work within the place that's been prepared, and it works quite well in that sense. Uh, Carl Urban as Billy Butcher. You got Jack Quaid as Huey, and then Anthony Starr as Homelander, and it just starts to tell this really interesting story that understands it understands the drama of it, but and understands sort of weaving tension and kind of, oh shit, anything had happened, that sort of energy. But then it also remembers that it needs to be funny like the original, and to be satirical, and to sort of poke fun at or expose some aspects of our modern society, particularly political our political environment, I guess you could say. So that's where the boys comes in, and we're on season 4 now. The previous 3 seasons have just been an escalation of, from hey, let's get some soups and put them in order, to we got to kill Homelander, to we got to use them against each other, or I mean, it's and the introduction of Gen V in the last year also really laid the stage for this 4th season, where everything's probably feels as bad as it could be. Homelander lasered the guy's head off, and he's going on trial for that. Soups are getting a lot more brazen, and they're we know Victoria Newman is definitely, she's a soup also, and she is in collusion with Homelander, or has been. And everything, Starlight, she is the only real good soup that we, and I don't want to say the only real good one, but Maeve is off, she's depowered. But other soups are, they are corporate stooges essentially. They have to follow the corporate line, and Homelander is, in his mind, is he's not a human. Soups are not humans. It's time to kind of take over and run the world. Is in the trailer, to be vengeful gods. And so that's kind of where we start with this season. And it seems like the world is going to shit. So keep that in mind when you understand that Eric Kripke has said straight up, so there's no question that a lot of this is political allegory. Homelander last season, he said Homelander's Trump. I'm following through on the way Trump talks about himself, and he said he could kill somebody and get away with it, and so forth and so on. And so they are really following through on that. They're following through on the left-right divide. They're following through on conspiracy theorists, and anti-vaxxing, and QAnon, and cancel culture, and all that stuff. And in the midst of all of this is the fact that there's a very much murderous, anti-human Homelander who has smartly engaged the smartest person on earth to help essentially destroy democracy so that he can be the savior and the dictator for life. But unfortunately, he's mentally unstable as fuck. Like, super mentally unstable. And so what you get then is, at least for me, a show where I am constantly, like, you have that feeling in your gut of just tension, and it's constantly like that. That's, to me, that's the brilliance of this show, is you're balancing so many different emotions and many different storytelling styles. But one of the main ones is, you always, whenever Homelander's on screen, don't know what the hell he's gonna do. And it's to the point where he mostly doesn't do any of the the monstrous shit we think is gonna happen until he does. So you're always like, oh yeah, I'm every time he's on screen, I'm just nervous. Like, oh shit, who is he gonna pulp somebody's head in this moment? Is he gonna, is he gonna laser somebody? Like, what is gonna send this guy over the edge? Especially because we see inside his head, or at least we hear inside of his thoughts, how he is not mentally all there. And it makes me wonder, how do you work around this guy? How do you work? How do you even live around this guy? How do you live near him when he doesn't value human life at all? There, as he calls them, tells Ryan, they're just playthings, and it's that tension that I love and I hate, because I love watching the show and I hate that feeling, but it makes everything so effective with Homelander. It also makes it more effective when we get introduced to Sister Sage, you know, which, by the way, Sister Sage is such a brilliant character. It's so brilliant because um, she is the smartest person on earth. She's the antithesis of what most people would think would be, should be, or does have any access to the power that is Homelander. And so she's, she is smart enough to know to fall in with him and also to help him achieve his dream of essentially making the world controlled by supes. And I think that she is a very interesting character in that she seems to know enough, how to make all of this happen, how to make this guy's dreams come true, even though, as she says, it won't make you happy. And so she also is the only person that really gets to say what she really thinks around him without fear of him killing her, because she's smart enough to know that he could do it at any time, but also she seems to know how to talk to him in such a way that it's possible to do that. So I really do appreciate about that. But um, you know, we spend all this time, dealing with Homelander, but of course Billy Butcher's dying of a brain tumor because he was taking Temp V to try to kill Homelander in last season, and he failed to do so. And to the point where he's seeing his dead wife, and he's got to figure out what kind of deals will I be willing to make, what sacrifices will I be willing to make to take out Homelander, or at the very least save Ryan. You also have, Kimiko's dealing with her past as a trafficking victim. Uh, Also, her and Frenchie are, we've been thinking this whole time they're going to be a romantic couple. And I was on board with that, but apparently they are, in fact, more platonic couple than anything else, because Frenchie is now in a relationship or something with a guy that turns out is the son of some people he murdered. So there's all that stuff, and he's going back to doing drugs and everything like that because of the pain of dealing with his past. Um, Huey's dad is, basically had a stroke, and so his mom is back, and he's dealing with that. And Starlight is struggling with, her part in the political landscape as, Annie January, where she's, has a nonprofit, and there's all these people on her side, and should she don the suit again? Should she be Starlight again to give them a symbol to kind of rally around? Because right now that's what it's all about. Homelander is basically Trump, and I didn't want to call her Hillary because that's not really correct. Hillary's not quite right, but it's close, at least in the sense of the way that the Homelanders kind of treat her. And so at the end of all of this is very interesting, but at the end of this, these allegories are barefaced. They're in your face. They're vaguely disguised. And I mean vaguely. Like, they're quoting people verbatim in this whole thing. and there. I don't even want to call it a the pot boiling. That's not really good. This is a this whole season seems to be a big nuclear bomb waiting to explode. And as we get further toward the end of the season, clearly it's going to get closer to that. And I also forgot to mention Jeffrey Dean Morgan is in here as an old CIA friend of Butcher, and he sees the coming, you know, New World Order and wants to try to stop it, and is trying to figure out if Butcher's got it in him to do anything, to do the tough thing like he normally would be. But Ryan is searching for a real dad, and Homelander saw you always seemed like Homelander was going to be that thing for him, and that he was going to turn evil. But it turns out, thank God, because I was prepared to just like want to smack that little boy on the back of the head when he went with Homelander at the end of last season. Turns out he's more like his mom than we thought, and that actually he may be the actual Superman of the boys. Homelander is if Homelander is anything, Homelander is Superboy Prime. Which if you read comics, from 20, 30, 40 years ago, you know who that is. But he's more Superboy Prime, and this is Ryan could be actual Superman, which hopefully that's true. So it's this first three episodes are great. I think they were 100% on point. Uh, you know, they do everything correctly, and by correctly I mean doing everything they've done right in the past and just continuing that pattern of excellence. Anthony Starr continues to be just unhinged, and I love it. Even as I just dread seeing Homelander on screen. Um, I forget her name, but that plays Sister Sage. She's very fun to watch. Erin Moriarty is as Starlight. I'm really enjoying her, but the boys themselves are, of course, great. And also I forgot, you got A Train, and he's A Train, freaking A Train. I I fucking hated him in the previous season, not because I didn't think he's written well. He was written well. They just made me want to strangle him because he's an asshole. Um, but he is, oddly enough, doing some more heroic shit, actually heroic shit in this season. And this just kind of speaks to the writing that they made. I am grudgingly going along with his shit, but my God, I've been annoyed by him. I don't. That's the thing is, you know, I nominally want to be like, yay, this black character, but man, yeah, man, I want to smack him. So, but he is looking like he's gonna be the mole inside and everything like that. Probably gonna get him killed. It just is what it is. But it's his whole journey has been one of the more interesting ones. And then of course we got the Deep, who is just not very smart, but he's got this relationship going on with an octopus, played by Tilda Swinton, by the way. Very that thought that was very funny. And he's deciding to take charge, I suppose. But also he just had something go on with Sister Sage. There's just so much stuff. It's just like I like a lot of stuff going on. I have notes. I'm hoping a person would be in here. I realize it's 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, but I guess I'll discuss with myself. Um, and I'll clip this out, I suppose, later for a review. But first three episodes have been great. I was live, threading those two, and I realized I'm like, man, this it's gonna take me hours to watch these. So definitely like a lot of good content. Um, and everyone's basically they're delivering the way they're supposed to. I love the writing. I think that they also constructed some really good action sequences. Um, I was surprised. I don't know why, but I was really surprised at what's his name, Cameron Corvetti, who plays Ryan, as just he's over the course of the last few years, and he's been in other movies and stuff like that too. But he has actually turned into a really good actor. He had a scene um, where I thought he had a scene where he really kind of brought me to tears, and I was surprised but also happy to see that because he's got a really kind of big role here as Homelander's son, as the possible kryptonite, if you will, of Homelander. And so seeing him not just emote but also draw the emotion out of me, I was very impressed actually. So because I said last season, I was just like, this kid right here, I'm just like, whatever. Either way, I do have notes. I'll be happy to go through them as hope people will come in. That'll be nice. In fact, let's pause for a second. Check. Pause for a second and check threads and see where everybody at. How do people do this on a regular basis? Like, my voice is already like, stop doing what you're doing. We've been going a half hour. Let's see. I need to find the boys season 4 thing. Well, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. I'll just repost it. Hopefully, some people will show up. So, anyway, let's go through the notes. Let's go through the notes on this episode. Now, I'll say one thing. So, Mother's Milk he's he's in charge of the boys now, and Butcher's just kind of been, he's there. um, and that kind of tension between them is interesting in the sense that Mother's Milk is doing. I mean, it's time for him to step up, but he's not quite there in terms of being Billy's replacement, and that's pretty clear actually, because there are several times in these first few episodes where he makes the right call until he doesn't. Um, he's doesn't know when to sacrifice, when to save someone. Um, Underestimates Sage. Definitely underestimates her and almost gets everyone killed over that. And he is trying to fill some shoes, and all the while he sort of has some resentment against Billy, probably earned. I think one thing I like about Billy Butcher in this is in these last days of his life, he admits himself that he's not a he even says it's right. It's like, I'm a bad man. And I think the thing about him being the quote hero of this show, which by the way, a show where even the most heroic person still has some bullshit going on. We get some revelation about Starlight, at least when she was a little kid, and it relates to how Firecracker, why Firecracker is so against her. Which just a reminder that dumb shit you say as a kid can come back to haunt you, man. Like, for real. In this case, um, out of jealousy, saying some really bad, hurtful things that ruined Firecracker's career was definitely one of those. But uh, you know, Billy is nominally the hero of this, but he's not necessarily heroic. As he says, I'm a bad man. And it's true. I mean, we've seen him kill people. Maybe they deserved it or not, but I get the feeling that in the past, or not too recent past, he'd have killed innocent people to get the job done. And that's something about Mother's Milk that's not necessarily true. And as Billy says, it's pretty much why you're bad at this. You Rick. Ugh. So, um, I do love I have loved Karen Fukuhara in this. I will say one thing. Kamiko's um her kind of her I don't want to say her motivations, but her character arc seems a little hard to say shallow, but not it's not nearly as deep because a lot of her character arc has sort of been dealt with before. But now she's at the QAnon convention and has focused in on human trafficking. In this sense that she was trafficked. Obviously, she was given Temp V, or she was given V, and it's she survived the whole process, and now she's got powers. But she wants to get back at the syndicate that trafficked her, and to kill them all in order to like move forward. In terms of her, uh, mentally, psychologically. Um, and to me, it feels simplistic. It feels a bit out of place in terms of her character growth because everyone else is kind of going through a lot more. Like Frenchie is, I mean, he's dealing with the guilt, the double guilt of killing this guy's family, but also wanting to be in this relationship and they're having sex and everything like that. And it's to the point where he's gone back to doing drugs. And he and Kamiko can't necessarily solve that together. He doesn't necessarily, and he feels like I don't even necessarily want you to know about all of this. And so that's definitely a rift between them. That's grown, um, and it makes me look. I'm invested in them as a platonic couple. They're first of all they're cute as fuck together, but the other thing is they're a great duo. Frenchie and Kamiko are a dynamic duo. So things that are trying to split that whole dynamic up, just I'm like don't do this to me. Don't make them hate each other or something like that. So but it is an interesting bit of character work to have them sort of be at odds about all of this. Um, Homelander, Homelander is afraid of getting old and irrelevant. It is interesting. This show could be just called Homelander's Massive Insecurities because how can you be the physically most powerful person on the planet? You got heightened senses. You can laser blast people, fly, super strong, can't really be killed by physical means. Like, and you're the top hero at Vought, and you run, but like, you've got everything, man. So why are you why are you so not even call it weakened, but why are you so beholden to these terrible mental problems? Um, it almost feels like the people who made him were intentionally giving him these neuroses, these self-deprecating like thoughts, or just these dependencies to keep him in check. And in fact, it's his goal to get out of that. But it's interesting how his insecurity it becomes so fucking mundane. he's getting gray hairs. He's collecting his gray hair, his gray pubic hair, and is afraid of, he's afraid of dying, you know, because he's a god. He should be immortal, right? But he's afraid of dying and not leaving a legacy, and that people forget him because he needs people to love him. And that's why Ryan is so important to him. It's weird that his whole thing with Ryan isn't, you're my son, I want to get to know you, I want to help raise you, I want to teach you. No, he's, trying to make him a mini version of himself. So somehow he can, be around forever. And it's a surprisingly deep look at it. Homelander also has a complicated relationship with Billy Butcher. He doesn't want to kill him. He knows he's dying of cancer or tumor or whatever. And I feel like that's just his mean streak. He just wants him to die a lonely or painful or whatever humiliating death. So, let's see. What was my? I said, do any of the soups have non-gross powers? So in the very first episode of the season, they're trying to use something on Victoria Newman, who they know is a soup. Because Huey used to work for her and it was exposed, and so they were trying this eye drops on her to blind her, I guess. But the daughter finds out about it, and it turns out she's got powers, and it made me ask, why does do any of them have non-gross superpower? Which of course, obviously they do. Starlight doesn't have a gross power, but she literally has like 4 snakes coming out of her mouth, and they are super powerful, and it's just kind of gross. And I'm like, and we see later on with Splinter also a gross superpower. Pause real quick so I can check in on threads. I'm just like, am I gonna have to beg you mofos to come in here and hang out? Probably. Oh well. I'm hoping that I'm probably gonna try to do this again next week just to cover the next episode, because I like talking about the boys. Just because there's so much, like, it's not just allegory. Like, there's a bit later on in the third episode. I know I'm jumping around, but it just came to mind. But the third episode, there's a meeting between Homelander and Sage and Victoria Newman, where essentially they're saying, "Hey, once your presidential ticket gets elected, we're going to take care of the President Roberts. Then you'll be in the White House. Then you'll start relaxing restrictions on soups and everything like that. We'll have one in every town, and then you'll come out." And so her coming out is all a calculated angle versus her not wanting to be out at all, which is one of the many allegories we see about choosing whether or not you even want to be out, and beyond wanting to be out, being the person that gets to control that, I guess, is the case. And it's not just, for some agenda or something like that. And it's interesting in that conversation that Sage talks about the getting rid of people who teach critical soup theory. I mean, it's interesting. Critical race theory, of course, is what they're talking about. It's an interesting analogy in that it's not a really quite right. I mean, there are, critical race theory, at least as it's being portrayed and viewed by, white people in America, is about black folks, and in this case, it will be about superhero folks, but soups are a corporate commodity essentially, and they're popular and they're powerful. And I suppose you could argue the same thing for black entertainers and so forth, but critical soup theory would apply to a much smaller number of people than critical race theory. And so, like I said, it's not a great analogy, but it's fun. It's an interesting thing. sometimes it makes me wonder, like, what was the thought process behind, this sort of thing? It sounds good though. Sounds fun. Um, let's see. Anything going on Threads? Not yet. Well, but I'm gonna try to get through my notes. They are extensive, as I said. So I'm gonna go through line by line if there's anything good here. I call him Dad Lander. He's not bad. He's a shitty dad. He's just like they're toys for you to play with. They're not. He's trying to tell him he's not human. Ryan is not. He's not riding with the program. Not just because he's a kid and everything. He's been raised good. Um, the idea that Superman is mostly a product of Jonathan and Martha Kent's child rearing, oddly enough, and Homelander is the result of not having a good foundation in that sense. You could all I mean you can read him. He's a broken human being because of a broken childhood. So you could kind of read that into like any kind of situation like that. When you end up with sociopathy or psychopathy because as a result. Um, there's a fun bit when they realize that um, Frenchie and Kimiko have to escape and they fall out the window or they jump out the window. Kimiko has the Deadpool arm, after it's been cut off and it's growing back, and she basically plummets to the pavement. And there's a part where you see part of her face that's just like hanging off. And I was like, yeah, okay, y'all making sure you're gonna gross us out. Okay, cool. We know what kind of show this is, so it's par for the course. Um, I had thought that this show was showing that all soups are bulletproof in it, but later on, Splinter getting killed shows that that's not true. So, but it is a subset of powers like bulletproof, super strong, etc. Like Victoria Newman is in this. um, Mother's Milk has to go find Todd, bitch ass Todd. That guy that got whooped up on in the previous season. He's a big old Homelander and gets his just desserts, I'll say. But apparently Monique, his Mother's Milk's ex-wife, feels something about him because she wants him to find him. Which I'm just like, dog. I kind of want to be like, why would you just stop doing that? Stop. But he wants a good relationship with his daughter, so he helps. And of course Todd is radicalized. Oh, it's not. The thing is, he's not even radicalized. That's the funny thing. He's just a big fan. So he's a. I guess this is an analogy of basically someone being used by the person that they idolize. So if this is Trump, these guys are, um, you know, they're convenient tools to get what he wants. And it's pretty messed up too, the way they get beat down. But I think prior to that, Homelander, he's not just this self-aggrandizing prick that wields his soup dick all over, slaps people with it all the time. He does that, but he's got the sense to know, like, hey, I actually need someone who's got some damn sense. Otherwise, I'm going to keep making decisions, and they aren't necessarily always the best ones. So he goes to recruit Sister Sage, and I thought that was pretty cool, in the sense that he becomes, smart enough to know he needs somebody who can actually challenge him and actually bring something to the table, and he listens. And so that's Ashley's out. It's and that I find that's pretty interesting. Ashley has been walking on glass for years, so maybe she'll get her hair back. I wrote that satire is so blatant here that not so smart people are gonna miss out on this, and I think that's true. I mean, you may as well call this a cut and paste of the world, and then throwing superhero capes on it, because that's pretty much what's happening here. It's very blatant. You should not be able, you should not be like, what are they trying to tell me? No, they spell it out. I mean, come on. There's a part. There's a whole QAnon convention in the second episode of this. Yeah, it's pretty clear. I saw that we got Firecracker. She's right wing blogger. I mean, every fucking season seems to have some right wing uh person, showing up. And why is it's always a woman too? It's interesting. Now I think about that. Why? I mean, and it's interesting once you finally get into her backstory. Oh, okay, you understand her Starlight thing, but it's interesting that where's the dude? I guess technically Blue Hawk counts, but whatever. I mean, he was not a great representative. She's actually putting more on display, and she's had some really interesting things actually about her, selling purpose to people who don't have shit, basically. And I thought it was very interesting. A good little bit of writing. She has a DeSantis sticker. Why? I mean, there's a DeSantis like running for president sticker. So Ron DeSantis exists in the world of the boys. Apparently, Trump doesn't. I guess. Um, let's see. Nope, they're not invulnerable. I'll say, I'm going to read this out. I think I understand Homelander right now and his relationship to Ryan. He's afraid of his own mortality. I think I said this already. So he's trying to make Ryan another version of himself so that he can become immortal in his mind. And it's a warping of the parent-child relationship. Very much so. I mean, it's always been said that children are the way we live forever, but I mean, he really is afraid of it. The difference is that between Ryan and Homelander is Ryan has a connection to his mom, and really he has humanity. Homelander can keep telling him, "You're a god. They're humans. We can do whatever." He can keep saying that, but Ryan's not buying it. It's second episode. Will Ferrell showing up, great. Doing a Blindside parody, 100%. A-Train being a fuck boy, but that's not the way it's going to be for the rest of the season. It's pretty clear. Especially when you see his brother giving him the business about talking to his sons. I thought that was pretty deep. Don't be coming around my sons because you ain't shit. Speaking of the deep, I said before, he's in a committed relationship with an octopus. He continues to be a joke. I wonder if Chase Crawford, he's just like, cool, as long as I get screen time, I don't give a damn. Like, y'all make me the butt of 1,000,001 jokes. Cool. I think that that's a joke that keeps on giving. Even when later he puts down on, what's her name? I just said her name too, but he puts down on, their handler, the CEO of the corporation, who's now just a mascot. Literally, she's just a mascot. They said you're like Ronald McDonald. Ashley, that's her name. When he really like reminds her like, yeah, actually I'm super powerful and I'll fuck you up. I thought that was pretty great. I mean, I don't like Ashley, but Deep sucks. He's so fun to watch though. So fun to watch. Let's see. She has the worst job ever though. Yeah, trying to deal with them. I like that Sage. Whenever people talk about her, not everyone, when most people talk about Sage, they say she's the smartest woman on the planet, and the inherent misogyny within that. Not that she's the smartest person, because she really is smartest woman, and she has to keep correcting them that no, actually, I'm smarter than everybody else. And the only person that doesn't do that is Huey. He says she's the smartest person on the planet. Interesting inherent misogyny on display. I don't think that's accidental. not just to have a joke line, but actually to say something. Um, Homelander's afraid of his aging. That is kind of funny. He's how old? Why are you collecting pubic hairs? Weird. Um, the QAnon convention. I mean, if you take the superhero shit out of it, it is. Especially because firecrackers doing that whole the starlight houses are actually, you know, pedophile rings and shit like that. Am I supposed to say that? I don't know. Whatever. It's they says Starlight's a pedo, like stuff like that. We get to see the version of Multiple Man, Splinter in there, and he is like all soups, kind of fucked up a little bit. I mean, look, no kink shaming. I'm not gonna do that. He's friend zoned by Firecracker, never gonna get it like in Vogue, but you know, and he gets caught masturbating to a picture of her, but he's doing what I think any person look. I'm just, like it makes sense to me. I mean, like if you masturbate anyway, you're fucking yourself, right? So he's basically just like, all right, I'm fucking myself, but he's not. You know, it would be that in the world of the boys, it's not good enough to make copies of yourself and have sex with them. They got to eat each other's ass, and I'm just like, I was like, this is the boys. It's the boys. It's just, they running a train in a sauna or you know a locker room. Like, of course it is, and of course that's gonna set up later on in the episode where the multiple are running around, you know, beating the shit out of or trying to beat the shit out of people while they are naked. That's once again they do continue the boys' tradition of swinging dick. If they're not, they you know they're flaccid. They haven't graduated to fully erect penises, even on Amazon Prime, but does happen. So you know, I don't even want to say a spoiler alert. Like, chill out. If you should be able to handle that stuff if you're watching this show. A lot worse things are happening, like the lasering of a fucking lasering in half of a an ice skater by Homelander. Accidental. I'll be fair to him. You know, it wasn't on purpose, but it happened. Um, which that's the sort of thing you watch this show, and you just never know. Eventually, something like that is gonna happen. It's crazy. Um, Crazy and you know good effects too. I will say that effects are good. Um, but yeah, that whole QAnon thing again. It's barely veiled. Like it's so blatant that people are gonna miss it because they're like, surely they're not talking about me. Yeah, they're talking about you. Eric Kripke is not playing. The the political and social commentary of this show has never been subtle. Never been subtle, which really kind of, and I don't want to say it bugs me. I'm not surprised that people looking at Homelander like he's really cool. I mean, sure, his powers are cool, but he sucks. Dude sucks. Like, if you identify with him, that's a red flag. That's a huge red flag. You should be like, man, like, I get it. You had a shitty childhood and everything, but every move he makes is suspect as fuck. I mean, he straight up, he is walking around, and people know that he could snap and murder them at any moment. It's not, but it's that if it was just that cool, but there's like underlying psychological shit that just like it's like don't if you identify with Homelander, please seek help. You need it. Anyway, um, the Alex Jones lookalike contest. I love that. There's so much. Like I really want to applaud the person who had to do the set dressing, who had to design the set for that convention. because the attention to detail is wild. Like you can pause that and just read the various, bits of the tchotchkes and the signs and everything like that. It's it's really quite well done. Bravo to whoever did the set dressing there. Um, A Train trying to be he's bullshitting his nephews about his heroic deeds, getting exposed by his brother, but that gives an in for Starlight and Huey to open his mind to the idea of being an inside man. But he does the right thing. Like, so when Homelander's found not guilty, of course, um, there's a big fight between Starlighters and Homelanders, and they fight. It's instigated by Sage, and those Todd and other two dumbass fans of Homelander have been killed. They had been beaten to death. A Train plants their bodies in the midst of it so that they can make it look like the Starlighters are a problem. Which, of course, it's like any left wing anything always gets demonized as violent, and that necessitates and justifies state violence against them. It's par for the course. Look at any place in history it happened in America in particular. I mean, you can look at Black Lives Matter. You can look at the G12 or whatever. Whenever the summits, whenever they have them here, if you're left wing, uh, the full force of the state will always be used against you. If you're right wing, the police presence, what little there is mostly there just to keep you safe. Like January 6th, I've always said, if that had been a Black Lives Matter protest, can't tell you how many people would have been killed by the police that day. It would have been every police officer, law enforcement officer in the tri-state area around DC would have been converged on that bitch like it's a fucking convention. And it would be a convention to beat on, students and brown people convention. But January 6th happened. They literally pull people back. There's not enough police. It's bullshit. I know that's the way things work in this country. I'm not stupid. I've lived long enough to understand that. And so, no shit. The Starlighters are being set up so that Homelander can save the world and all that stuff. Like, makes sense. But seeing, that I thought it was funny. I was like, so they set up two black guys to take the fall for it, and I was like, man, y'all, another layer. There's another layer right there. So he's not just dealing with the manufactured story and everything. Of course, Fall's going to run with it, but they immediately put two black guys there, even though the vast majority of the people there were white. So they throw a racism angle in it too that some people are going to miss. Some people are going to miss that, willfully or not, are going to miss that. It's not a surprise that two black guys are, fingered in the killing of three white dudes at this rally when there was so much violence, so many people were fighting and everything like that, but just those two. But A Train comes through with a solid, helps them out. All right, he may be flipping. That's what I said about A Train. I'm like, fuck, I want to hate you. But there's many times he does shit that makes me want to hate him. But he's also so fucking complicated. And I really do appreciate about the writing here. He's doing this Will Ferrell thing, and it's like he's like, my brother wasn't a freaking drug dealer. Like, y'all making all this shit up, and he's having to go along with the program, and he's just seen and had to do too much, and he's afraid for his life, but Mother's Milk talks him into it, and I do appreciate that because he comes through to save Huey's life in the third episode, which full circle, call it full circle. One, that Huey did him a solid in the previous season, even though he hates him for killing his girlfriend, but also that Huey can accept the help of someone who's done him so wrong. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Let's see. Firecracker's a right wing grifter. Again, listen to her explain to Sage why she does what she does. Um, let's see. Noir being an actor. All of them are actors. We even see that later on when Ryan is practicing his first save. That they're all actors. It's all set up. Like, is there, he's like, is it always acting and stuff like that? Whoever just joined, hey, um, hope you stick around. That'd be cool. I've been talking to myself for like an hour. But of course, I am gonna edit and post this video later, just because I've just been kind of going on about this show. But I hope you stick around and listen or chime in. That would be great, because there's a lot to talk about in The Boys season 4. Let me know if you got to watch the episodes. There is a 10-second delay, unfortunately, too. So, that being said, yeah, I love Noir. Black Noir is because we're so used to him just being like Storm Shadow. He's just a ninja or something like that. And then in this one, he's clearly not. He's just like he's an actor, Um, and he's like, "What's my direction?" I love that so much. That everybody that in Hollywood has to sneak in an actor, you know, acting or movie production reference. It's funny. Um, so they sister Sage gets Firecracker and Splinter, and um they've cornered the boys. Now, prior to this, Butcher kind of confronts Mother's Milk about how he's fucking up and he's going to get everyone killed, and that they should grab Sage, but they never do. They get cornered. It looks like it's lights out, but of course not. It's the second freaking episode, and Butcher comes in for the save. They do end up killing Splinter in a very fun fight, in a bat mitzvah. Um, and Firecracker's like, it's the deep state, and look, the Jewish cabal. I mean, she's a right wing grifter. Of course, she has to say all these things. And they have this big fight. They end up killing Splinter, saving Butcher and everything like that. But that Butcher says, "Hey, you don't have what it's in it to be the skipper," as he says, because you won't make the right hard calls. And I think that's fair. Even though I think it's kind of rich for him to say when he had the opportunity to get Victoria Newman on his side, but wouldn't burn Huey because of it. Speaking of Huey, he mad. He big mad at his mom's back, and is just kind of preoccupied by that. But in the course of almost getting killed in the third episode, it gives him a little perspective. Also, finding out he can't legally do anything about her having the power of attorney over his dad, who was, of course, in a coma because of a stroke. Which kind of brings another part of the show that brought tears to my eyes, which, thank God, like this show, the fact that they are able to navigate different emotional beats, I really appreciate that. But him having a heart to heart with his mom about why she left and finding out that actually she had postpartum depression that never went away. Now, remember, Huey's probably 30 something in this show, in his 30s. So you're talking about 30 years ago, in the 90s. Postpartum depression, if you were alive back then, wasn't actually a huge thing that people were talking about. We did see instances of, a couple of famous instances of moms murdering their kids as a part of that. So she couldn't deal with him when he was sick. She left and didn't keep in contact because his dad didn't want him to be confused or whatever like that. And look, that's about as nuanced a fucking conversation as you could have about abandoning your kid and why it might be good. I like I know everyone's just like, oh, but the parents should stick around. If you're not, should you? If you're not mentally healthy, if you're not stable, if you're not able to handle the situation, is it good to try to stick it out? I mean, if you don't, I don't even say if you don't have to, if there are alternatives. And Huey receives this at a time when it's better for him than if he had been younger. If he had been 16 or 20 or something like that, younger in his life, not as experienced, he's gone through all this shit with the boys to this point. He almost dies and realizes, like, you know what? I think I can afford to be a lot more understanding here. That it's not always as easy as you think, and that your emotional response to something isn't necessarily reflective of what's actually going on, or even trying to understand someone else's emotional and mental situation, and that it's not the intention to hurt you is generally not there. Like I really believe that, especially when it comes to family relations. It's generally not there. It's accidental. It's incidental, accidental. It's situational, but it's very rarely intentional hurt. And in a way, the hurt she caused him was probably better than her getting to the point of wanting to kill herself or something like that. I don't know. So, um, we saw about Frenchie and his, past, and he killed Colin's parents. That little relationship. I mean, I'm for it. Kamiko's for it. Um, but it did kind of spur this whole, this confrontation between the two of them. That hey, you don't necessarily I love you and we're friends. We're great friends and everything. You're like my sister or whatever the hell. But one, the reason why I'm not dealing with this ain't because of you. Like, I ain't even trying. I've accepted that we ain't gonna have nothing too. And she tries to be like, "Well, I had sex with this one barista." He's like, "Okay, good for you. Like, why we're not doing tit for tat? You trying to scare me away with it?" But anyway, oh, and two, you don't have a right to know all of this stuff. And three, we don't necessarily have to solve each other's problems. So, you know, I don't want the strain on the relationship to happen, but it is nice to see it put to the test, I guess. Um, so now the last episode, I have less notes for this, so we're gonna wrap this up very soon because I've been going for a while. Starlighter, and she finally decides, all right, I'm gonna be the public face of Starlighters because they need a symbol, as Huey says. And I feel like Eric Kripke was saying that about our current world too, because the right wing has Trump as its symbol, a symbolic leader, or what have you, the person to rally around. And left wing really doesn't. Joe Biden's not it. Um, I've sometimes said like, in none of the above is not a good candidate to run against anybody. Or I lived through the ABBA, anybody but Bush again, right? Being a I'm not that guy candidate, it's not good enough. And Joe Biden, he's been president for 4 years, done some stuff. A very good media campaign has convinced half of the country that he hasn't. And even if you gave them the stats, they'd still be like, no, he still hadn't done anything or whatever, or it was Trump or whatever. That's the way politics goes. But anybody but Trump again, how do you inspire people with that? But if you have a starlight, that's a different story. So she finally decides to do that, and one of the things she does is confront Firecracker about her constant campaign against her. Which, by the way, she does this after someone goes into one of her, Starlight House offices and waves a gun around, and only Frenchie being there to, bust this dude in the grill. It's the only thing that kind of saves anybody's lives. And this is a reflection of what actually has happened in the world when you have, you know, people on YouTube and on podcasts and, One American News and Newsmax and fucking Fox, and they're beating this whole drum, groomers and QAnon and all. They're doing all this stuff. They're ginning people up. And as earlier we saw in the previous uh, episode, it's about the purpose. Firecracker gives these people who have nothing a purpose, because as she says, what's better to believe you're a part of this, group of people who are fighting an evil organization that are, kidnapping kids, or to accept that you're a nobody that nobody will remember. So that little bit explains this guy showing up, and again, the the analogy is very clear. It's very thin. So, um, but seeing all that happen, she confronts her, and we find out that here's a surprise: 13-year-old girls, especially when they're jealous or feeling, some kind of threat to their position, are mean bitches. Hey, she called her a mean girl. It's a thing happened. But she apparently fat shamed. She called her a fat slut or something like that. Something like that. And basically drove her off and that's, drove her off the superhero beauty pageant circuit. And that's the genesis of that. So it's really kind of about, people who can and can't let go. The to me, the divide between the two sides here are people who, as she said, people don't change. Firecracker says that people who do believe in that people can change and people that don't. Because if you do believe people can change, then you are optimistic about how the world can be better. If you don't, all you're thinking is the only way to make things better is to get rid of these people that can't change and are doing bad things, even if you know you're lying about it. So it's, seeing that and realizing, oh, even good Starlight isn't necessarily good. Obviously, there's a lot of gray area in this show. I do like Jeffrey Dean Morgan in this. I think he's a bit one note though. He's very much we just got to kill the soup situation. So I hope they not do better, but do more with his character. But I do like him a lot in this. You have Butcher and Ryan hang out. Butcher was going to drug him so that they could get him to a safe site and deprogram him. But in the course of sort of hanging out with him, realizes he doesn't need deprogramming. He's not accepting what Homelander's trying to drill into him. It looks like it. That's the part. One of the parts where I said I got tears was the two of them playing foosball, and then Ryan opening up about how he feels about the fact that he accidentally killed a guy during their little staged, robbery thing. And Butcher realizing, oh, actually, he's a human being, and he does care, and his mom raised him right. Doesn't need to be deprogrammed. I don't need to kidnap him. I don't need to traumatize him again. I just need to connect with him. Even though, as he tells him, I'm a bad man. And to me, that is where Homelander's ultimately going to fail. And he sees it. The thing is, he sees it. When he confronts Ryan later, he sees that Ryan isn't going to get with the program. He says, why am I not, I've done everything. Why am I not good enough for you? He's not good enough for him because not just that he's a psychopath, but he's inhuman. And I mean inhuman in the sense that he doesn't feel human emotions the same way. He's trying to erase all of whatever humanity has. Right now, his dependency, his need to feel loved and admired and all that other stuff is what matters. And his, to the point where now he's got different voices talking in his mind that are going to try to excise that from him. But his need for Ryan to accept him and see him as a hero and a father, and not being able to stomach the fact that Butcher, who is also a terrible person, can be connecting with his son in a way that all of his work and his money and his position doesn't allow him. And so Ryan is not just the Achilles heel. He is probably the one that's going to defeat him because he is more Superman than he ever will be Homelander. He is definitely, and the fact that he can cry over accidentally killing someone that he doesn't want to kill, he doesn't want to do any of that stuff, that he doesn't agree with his dad, that he wanted a father, which is why he opened up his mind and his heart to this guy. But now that he has, Homelander isn't it, and Billy Butcher is. So Ryan's his development is actually super important, but Homelander can't deal with that. And so, our last bits that we see is after, is he's talking to himself about, we got to get rid of the desire to be loved in you. So things are definitely not great right now. Welcome. I don't know who just tromped in, but hey, welcome in. Just kind of wrapping up my recap of this. Hoping someone will come in and try have some discussion with me. A lot of stuff happened in this episode, for real. Great at performances all around, though. I'm just gonna give that. I didn't dislike anything. I'm gonna be honest. Didn't dislike anything. If I disliked anything, it's I won't even say dislike. It's like don't mess up Kamiko and Frenchie. They're too good. I like them too much. But to that point, I didn't really dislike anything. I think this has a really good forward momentum and forward trajectory. It's not as bleak and hopeless as I thought it might be. I thought this, because of the way the last season ended, these first 3 episodes were gonna leave me being like, oh, everything's messed up. We're about to have the apocalypse. And in a sense, it's true. This apocalypse is very much mirroring our current situation, if you're American, where it's all around surrounding this next election. It's pivotal. It could change the way things go. So, I think that's not accidental. So those are all my thoughts. I'm really looking forward to the next episode. Hopefully next time I'll have some people join me so we can talk about this. I really thought people would be interested in discussing, but you know what? It's all good. Even if I was just talking to myself, I feel like this is the sort of show that is hard to watch, but it's easy to watch, if that makes sense. It's easy to watch in the sense that so much fun stuff is happening. I busted out laughing multiple times. It's a lot of action, a lot of interesting things are going on. People saying the dialogue in here it's just on point. I love it. But it's hard to watch in the sense that it's too close to home. I think it's the thing. So close to home that it's scary knowing the way, because in the world of boys, it's pretty starkly laid out what the end game is for Homelander and the Supes. And as Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character was saying, they're going to be rounding us up and putting us in camps, which is too simplistic. Some people will be, definitely. They can't get with the program. But as Sage said, if you kill everyone, who's going to build your monuments? So in the world of the boys, the end game for Homelander and the Supes is very clear, and it's terrifying. and it's just an exaggerated version of maybe what the end game is for our current political situation. That's why it's hard to watch this show too, knowing that a less exaggerated future could be on the horizon. Um, and to see real people reflected in a comedic but not really way of like it's I guess what I'm saying is it's tough to watch something that exposes the truth about the world by basically just changing the names and throwing a cape on it. Like if this were like a real deep analogy and you had to like you had to think about it like, oh well, if this might be this and you could read it this way. No, there's only one fucking way to read this show. There really is. It is our world with capes and names changed. And that's fucking scary. Because the world of the boys, I would never want to live in. Like, there are so many superhero related worlds that I don't want to live in. The world of the boys says no, every one of those superhero worlds that like Marvel and what that seem cool. No, they suck. You don't want to live there. And it's barely concealed. It's anyway, I see somebody in here. I hope you say something in the chat, but um they've got all of the smart people working on this. Their directing is on point, acting is on point. Like I'd have I have nothing bad to say about the show. I just want more. And I'm glad they're getting the fifth and final season to kind of close this out. I think you can only drag Homelander and his degeneracy so far. Like how long can he be the bad guy before you just like either let him win or kill him, do something with him. But I think it'll still give time for it to get right. This season can develop Ryan more than he was before. He's not, he's in the transition between that kind of sort of whiny kid from last season. He's in the transition to hopefully being Superman. I hope. And of course, Butcher is slated. He's got to die. My question is, will they actually kill him though? Carl Urban's done a great job being Billy Butcher. Would you kill him before the end of the fifth season? That's a good question. Because I don't think the boys works without him, even though he has this tumor. So, are they gonna do a Deus Ex superhero and have someone save him or something? I don't know. Time will tell. But Starlight and her feud with Firecracker, like I guess maybe what my bigger question is, will they have the courage to actually kill one of the boys, to kill somebody off? I don't know how it happened in the comics, so I can't say yes or no to that, but I'm curious, will they have the courage to do it? I think adding stakes never hurts. Adding high stakes to it. Like this show casually kills people all the time. Like the last episode, the third episode, I don't know, 7, 8 people died. Homelander lasered somebody in the face. Cut through somebody. People. It's just like, so they don't have a problem with killing people, but the plot armor that the boys have had, will it remain? I wonder. It will be. I think it will be a big step to kill off one of them. Especially somebody like Huey, who is essentially the starting character for this show. Would they kill him off? Would they kill Starlight, who is nominally the only suit that they really have on their side? I think A-Train is probably the most likely to get dismembered by Homelander. And Victoria Newman is probably the next most likely. Just because the CIA is gunning for her, because she is definitely going to be president. And as soon as they win, they'll kill the president. They'll kill Roberts. So keeping, this has all got to come to a head. If they are pacing this correctly, this is all going to come to a head around the time of the election. And they've got to settle for sure whether or not Victoria Newman gets to be within one step from the Oval Office. Um, which, by the way, I forget her name, but I should look her up. Um, she's great. I think because she was always supposed to be a stand-in for Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. I always thought it was interesting um, that she's able to play that, but she's also obviously very calculating. She's closer to the White House than AOC ever will be, like definitely. Um, but I think she's playing the long game. She's got the superhero virus. How are they gonna be able to get that away from her? We still have in the future to see what happened with the Gen V people. I don't think we're gonna see any of the captured people from Gen V, Marie. Um, but we already know that two of them, I forget Sam and the girl's name, are definitely going to be in this season. They're going to show up at least as a cameo to kind of connect the two shows. But Newman is definitely she's got a nuke in her back pocket, and the question is because that nuke is aimed at herself also. What's she going to do with it? She hadn't told Homelander, so this is definitely her ace. But as Butcher said, it's not ready to kill him yet. Because we got to admit, that's got to be the aim of this show is to kill Homelander. He is far and away the biggest threat to the world. And his safeguards are close to coming off. So I think we'll see. I'm very optimistic for the season. I'm so glad it started so strongly. And it's like I'm not saying it's filling in a gap for superhero stuff. Obviously, we're waiting for Deadpool in like next month, at the end of next month. We are getting great superhero content right now, but this is the sort of more thoughtful. It's R-rated, obviously. It's very crass, but it's way more thoughtful. It has way more to say generally than most superhero things that we get. It's allowed to work in a bigger space. Um, and so I think this is a lot more important than most other superhero things we get. I'll say that while I'm watching My Adventures with Superman and loving the shit out of it. So I don't know. I don't really have any more thoughts on this, and my voice is it's threatening to go out. So I'm probably gonna wrap up right about now since no one's chiming in and it's just me. But you know what? I I am going to schedule another one of these for next Friday and hope that you guys show up and rap with me. We gotta talk about this show. Show's too good, too damn good. Um, we are eating well, and I'm glad for it. So either way, I know it says there's one person viewing. If you're not gonna chime in, thank you anyway for showing up. I appreciate it. If you're listening still. Listening to me drone on about this show that I love. And also, of course, this is BLERD FORCE 1. Blerds talking about pop culture stuff, but mostly superhero things, but we do talk about other things. Other nerdy stuff, do reviews here and there, do some opinion pieces, do a podcast called The Supercast. If you want to talk about more superheroes and pop culture media, we cover all of that stuff. It's a fun time. And I also want to give a shout out to my podcasting partner, Lottie hits Anu Kinihun on Threads and on YouTube. He does more gaming content. So if that's your thing, you can check him out. He does like to talk about it. He's a huge gamer, knows all about that stuff more than I do. So you can check him out. And also, they didn't show up, but it's all good. Vigilante Vibes podcast, Muscles, and the Multiverse over on Threads and on YouTube also. Big fan of those guys. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of people that follow me or that I follow. So just check that out. check me out on Threads and see the people that I follow. Generally speaking, they're good folks over in the nerd space, and are constantly talking about that sort of thing. And I just encourage you, if you enjoyed what you heard here, or you want to hear more, just check out the content on the site, on the YouTube channel, BLERD_FORCE1 on YouTube, where you are right now. So anyway, I'm gonna get out of here, rest my voice. And you guys go watch The Boys and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. All right. So I've been Mo, your comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture, and I'll see you guys on the other side of the